The coastline of Namibia stretches for 1,400 kilometers along the South Atlantic. An almost uninterrupted string of dunes rolling towards the ocean. The Benguela Current, which flows north from the Antarctic and follows the Namibian coast, carries huge quantities of nutrients. Many birds and sea mammals are attracted to this water, which teems with fish. Huge colonies of brown fur seals come to breed on the Namibian shore. Each year, about 300,000 births are recorded.
This big one.
Yes.
He always wants to come and bite on the oars because he always plays with us.
I said one is going the other side now.
This big one. And then one day he came and he bit the oar and he was so happy with himself. It's wow. But he's always with the youngsters. I don't know if he's the grandfather or what. Welcome.
Ingrid Barard Laporte is with a small group of tourists. She's sharing a kayak with Jian, a naturalist and guide who has an inexhaustible knowledge about the life and behavior of the fur seals.
And what is the lifespan usually for a seal?
20 to 22 years, but they only mature when they are 4 years old.
Male and female, same
Yes.
age.
And then in this colony, each male has about 15 to 20 females in its harem. And each female has only one youngster. And when the babies are born, their eyes are blue in color. They only change into brown when they are about 3 months old, just like a dog. There's a few seals coming as well, looking at us now.
Ingrid has lived in Namibia since 1998, and she wrote the first French guide to the country. She publishes her photographs and organizes tailor-made trips all over southern Africa.
Namibia is an amazing country. Here you see marine wildlife, and in a few hours we'll be in the dunes. It's a very likable country. The people are welcoming. It's easy to visit as it's family-friendly. We have many national parks and also private reserves where the emphasis is on protection of the biotope in terms of vegetation, fauna, and the reintroduction of species. This is an environment where the government has included the conservation of nature in its constitution.
The role of the Benguela Current is not only one of nutrition. Passing close to the Namibian coast, it brings to the surface a mass of cold water from the depths of the ocean. On contact with the warm tropical air, condensation causes morning fogs which penetrate to the interior of the desert. This humidity helps animals and plants to survive in these extreme climatic conditions. The Namib Desert was formed 55 million years ago. It's considered to be the oldest desert in the world. This long ribbon of desert stretches all along the west coast of southern Africa, starting in South Africa, crossing Namibia, and ending in Angola. Created in 1998 by a businesswoman who was passionate about nature on land previously used for sheep rearing, the private nature reserve Namibia covers an area of 172,000 hectares. It's one of the biggest private reserves in southern Africa. Stefan Bruckner, the son of the reserve's founder, welcomes visits to the Wolverdan's Dune Lodge, built in the heart of the desert, far from anywhere.
What makes this place special? I think it's pretty straightforward. It's the exclusivity, not the exclusivity of our camps. We try to, deliver a good service and make the stay here as comfortable as possible. But what really defines our product and why you should come here is number one, this extraordinarily beautiful nature. But on top of that, it's really the fact that we, right from the outset, have limited the number of tourists this area can take. And our current ratio, and that's almost like thrown in concrete, is 1 guest per 1,000 hectares. That means every guest here has got 10 million square meters for himself.
Corris is the chief warden of the Namib Reserve. Every fortnight, he uses radio tracking to try to locate some recently reintroduced young cheetahs that are wearing transmitters. Ingrid would like to organise photo safaris in the reserve, so she goes with the warden to find the latest arrivals. After several weeks of acclimatisation, the felines, who were born in captivity, experienced their first hours of freedom just a few months ago.
Yes, and I heard you've reintroduced other species as well.
We have quite a few other species that we have introduced. We have cheetahs, we have plain zebras, we have things like hartebeest as well, which are all species that have disappeared at one point, because of competition with livestock and livestock farmers. So now currently the aim is to bring back all these species. You see the giraffes up there?
You have giraffes, yeah.
Yeah, we have giraffes here. We have introduced about 9 giraffes when they were first introduced, and currently one of them has died with her young one, possibly by at giving birth. That's when she died.
When she died, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Recently, the owners of properties adjoining the reserve have decided to join the conservation project. A partnership agreement has been signed to remove fences between the properties.
So can I get the jump?
Yeah. Okay, can you keep going slightly? Okay. So in the end, we are hoping to remove the whole section of the whole fence between us and them, just to, I said, to establish the old migratory routes of the game from the Namib No Cliff Park through us into the conservancy. So.
You need me to turn?
Yeah. Landowners hit by the world crisis in sheep rearing have been forced to look to another type of activity. They've realised that wildlife could provide a considerable source of income thanks to ecotourism. Each year, this country of 2 million inhabitants receives 1 million visitors who come to enjoy the open spaces that are protected or given back to nature. The income generated by tourism finances the management of the reserve, and it also subsidises an educational project. Victoria gives nature lessons.
Right, did we also catch a mouse?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, so we can compare the two.
Really can jump very high.
Yeah.
Because she's very afraid. The gerbils are.
So this
Are
mouse
nice.
here, right, it's called the striped mouse. You can see it's very active, okay? And here you have the gerbil. It is something like a mouse, but it is jumping, right, instead of running.
What about the lizard?
Victoria is raising awareness about the importance of protecting biodiversity and the country's natural resources among children who are more and more urbanised and cut off from nature.
Originally, I was teaching at an environmental education center where I taught just about cheetahs and leopards, the wildlife of Namibia. And I saw quickly that children don't know about the basics. They don't know how to protect their water. They don't know how to save energy. They don't know about alternative energy. We live in a country that has limited resources, and we need to be able to learn how to save what we have. Make sure the shadow is correct. Good. Now we must put the pot on so that the pot gets hot. Exactly. Okay, and we can take the lid off. We actually don't need the lid.
It saves wood or charcoal, but it takes 45 minutes to cook scrambled eggs. That doesn't matter when everyone knows that in the desert, trees are much rarer than thyme. Driving north, 7 to 8 hours on a track without meeting another vehicle to reach Damaraland.
Namibia has a great variety of accommodation. There are luxury lodges, but also opportunities for camping. I think the best thing is to be able to offer both. So you get some places where you have the comfort and exclusivity of a lodge, but you also have a slightly riskier experience, which is more rustic and closer to nature. The principle of trekking is to spend as much time as possible on foot. So people who come and trek with us are dropped off in a completely wild place, and they follow their guide. So we walk between 4 and 6 hours a day, and we do 10 to 25 kilometers depending on the stages. We don't follow trails, so these are places we found ourselves. On the other hand, the logistics give us a bit more comfort. That's handled by a vehicle. We don't go near a vehicle for 3, 5 or 8 nights according to the length of the trek, but it does give us a certain level of comfort when we arrive at the camp. Tourism in Namibia is mostly eco-tourism, sustainable tourism. To preserve tourism in Namibia, it's essential to do it this way, to have a fairly exclusive tourism in order to avoid damaging the environment. This is a very special, very arid environment which couldn't sustain mass tourism. Here we're on the riverbed. There may be elephants, so we have to be careful. Do you see the elephants over there? These are desert-dwelling elephants. In Namibia, we have one species of elephant, but we call these ones desert elephants because they've adapted to the particular conditions of the desert. They inhabit ephemeral riverbeds in northwestern Namibia. It's a species which has adapted to live in very difficult conditions. These rivers might not receive any rain all year, or they might get a little, sometimes just for a few days of the year. And these elephants can go for up to 3 days without water. The species isn't particularly at risk because they're well protected here. This is an area which is also fairly well protected by the local population, so they don't really have any predators here.
The Namibian elephant is no longer on the list of endangered species. But another symbolic animal of these arid areas, the black rhinoceros, nearly disappeared forever.
So the guys, what they're going to do is they're going to go first. They're going to look for the rhino, and then after all, we'll follow them, and then we're going in a single file.
Intensively poached in the late 1970s, the huge animals were found riddled with bullets, their horn sawn off. Their ivory was then sent to Yemen to be made into dagger handles or to Asia for use in traditional medicines. The late Blythe Lutit, an American, along with the administration of Damaraland, founded the Namibian organisation SRT, Save the Rhino Trust. Blythe's plan was to pay well-known local hunters, often former poachers, to form anti-poaching patrols. Blythe transformed the former poachers into seasoned trackers. The hunter's instinct now serves a good cause. Save the Rhino Trust invites tourists to follow the patrol and to go and see the black rhinos.
The name of the rhino is Wakati, the female. The small one is Harry. Harry? Yes. Harry is approximately 2 and 6 months old. Mother is hopefully approximately 26 to 30 years old. It's a quite big female. Wakati have already over more than 5 cows.
The former poachers have exchanged their guns for notebooks. Save the Rhino Trust carries out scientific studies on the behaviours and habitat of the black rhinoceros and is creating a database with regular monitoring of individuals. The black rhino population today is estimated at 160 individuals in the whole of Namibia. In the heart of the country, high plateaux replace the deserts of sand or loose stones. Arid rocks and infertile valleys are intermingled. Here, it looks as if man has never left his mark. The northeast of Namibia is nothing like the rest of the country. Here, rain is less rare and the vegetation more lush. At the beginning of the century, the first colonists came to this region to start cattle farming. They got rid of the wild fauna in order to keep the grass for their cattle. Bruno Nebe dreams of once more living alongside the antelope and big animals that he used to see in his childhood in Namibia when he went hunting with his grandfather.
And basically what you see, everything you see is on this property, on this escarpment. Then on the back of the escarpment starts the neighbors. This mountain here used to be at a beacon, or still has a beacon. It divided 3 farms. One farm that way, one farm that way, and one farm that way.
Whether because of the economic crisis or bad management, the farms fell into disuse. Bruno bought 12,000 hectares, the minimum to make his project of creating an animal reserve viable. The whole area was overgrown with thorns. He had to return the landscape to its original state by recreating areas of cover and plain for the animals. A Herculean task over a long period.
This is the area where we cleared with a bulldozer. We initially put in the bulldozer, took all the bush out except for the bigger trees, we left those, and then once the bush started growing back, we used fire twice, and since then it's been fairly open. And for me, just create these open areas, particularly for the grazers to come in, and during the day when they do have the grazing hours, they can graze here, and then once lunchtime or late afternoon, they can move out again into the shade.
After reconstructing different biotopes, Bruno started to reintroduce animal species.
The most important is that the animals have first priority. That means I wanted to build a camp in such a way that it is concealed from the animals, yet you have little windows where you can see the animals, but in the first line it is the animals must not be frightened away by me and by the tourists. So I've decided to do tourism, very small scale. We take maximum 8 people, we have a small bush camp, and it's only walking. It is something that people like doing, and it also gives the opportunity of basically trying to bring people closer to nature.
Ten years after creating the Munduela Reserve, Bruno is still tirelessly pursuing his dream to safeguard an essential part of the Namibian heritage, its flora and fauna, to return to nature its open spaces and to rediscover a lost paradise.
I think Namibia has a very good track record in nature conservation. It's a country that lends itself to it. And also it is one of the pillars of our constitution, in that, you know, everybody has an obligation to actually try and conserve our environment.